That is the choice of ganj tonight. Very solid. Very, very solid. So what it is, Combat Sports fans, it's your boy Bando, back at it with another episode of Combat and Kick It. Last night was Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. Surprisingly, I sat through and watched that little boxing event between two MMA guys. It's interesting when you get two MMA guys doing their own boxing event instead of seeing some boxer beat up on an MMA guy or some YouTuber fight an MMA guy. You get two MMA guys who went at it, and this was actually a rematch from their original BMF title matchup in UFC back in, was that 2019 or so? Yeah, 2019 I think. So let's get into the review of this. Let's talk about it real quick. Let's go. So Nate Diaz got the win over Jorge Masvidal last night. Obviously, in their first matchup, their first time seeing each other, Jorge Masvidal ended up coming out with the win, but it was more due to a doctor stoppage because of Nate's cut. Now, you know, we've seen fights keep going with worse cuts before. I don't think the cut was that bad to stop the fight, but they stopped the fight. So moving on, 4 years later, 5 years later, here we are. Boxing match. Both men are out of the UFC. Both men are pretty much out of their prime, and they you know, they had exactly what I expected them to have. Right? It wasn't a technical matchup. It wasn't seeing two guys that are fantastic boxers. Right? We know their skill when it comes to MMA boxing, but when you're talking pure boxing, these men did not look like they know what they're doing. The lack of footwork was there. The hands, I don't know what type of punches Nate Diaz throws, but they look like, now look, I ain't trying to get cracked by him, but they look like the lightest, softest punches I've ever seen in my life. Like, he doesn't look like he throws anything behind him, and if he throws a 1-2, he's falling off his back foot every time he throws it. So it's, you know, they don't have that super technical background of boxing, right? Especially when it comes to the pure game of boxing. But when it comes to the MMA, everything that both of them do works, right? The different switches that Jorge does, the little taps into the quick explosions, like those things work in MMA. They don't work that well in a boxing ring. Boxing is all about being able to move, having good footwork, having good head movement, having good defense, being able to counter and stuff like that. But Nate got the win. Obviously, it was a close fight. You know, in my opinion, if you were looking at it from the aspect of who was landing the heavier punches when they were traded, it definitely seemed like Jorge was landing more damaging strikes, right? I don't think either of them were really hurting each other, but it seemed like Jorge was landing with more power. But Nate was landing a lot. Nate had a high volume, right? These guys threw over 1,400 punches combined in the 10 rounds that they fought. So it's you know, pretty interesting to see that they went with that much volume, but most of that volume was coming in on Nate's end, right? Nate was throwing a lot because, like I said, he's just tapping. He doesn't throw these punches where he's going for the finish or anything like that. He's just tapping. He throws these little smacking lead hooks, and then he'll come with that two down the middle. That's just the way he is, right? But he kept throwing them. He was landing. I thought Masvidal was doing better to the body. I wouldn't have scored this 8-2. You know, I would have had it more close to like a 6-4 type of thing. Maybe a 7-3, but an 8-2, I don't know. I think Masvidal won more than 2 rounds. You know, it's tough to score a boxing match like that because you're not seeing any real damage or anybody be put in real danger, right? Because they're not real boxers. It's not me trying to dog them. They're not real boxers, so they're not putting themselves in the danger. They're not getting put in the danger that you see other guys get put in. If that was a real boxer in there against Nate or against Jorge, you would have saw Jorge or Nate end up in danger, where they would have had to fight out of it, and that's where you see the real boxing skill. If those men were put in a dangerous position against a full-on boxer, they would not be able to get out. So it was a good fight though for what it was, right? They did stay competitive. They kept throwing, right? It was a good fight. It was back and forth. It was fun. It was a fun little watch, right? I wasn't watching it for anything besides the fact that it was going to be a fun little watch. Knowing that I'm watching a rematch from 5 years ago that was originally in MMA. Let's see what they do next. You know what I mean? Maybe they do something completely different. Maybe we're talking about bare knuckle next. Maybe we're talking about karate combat next. Whatever the case may be, they might do something different next, and I think that'd be smart. They should do one more fight. Obviously, Nate was out there saying. Nate's wild, bro. Nate's sitting out there saying he wants to fight Leon Edwards, bro. You're not even in the UFC no more. You gotta get back in the UFC first, which I think Dana would sign him in a heartbeat to get him back for a big fight because he knows how much that would sell. But no one's asking or rooting for a Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards fight. Leon won the first fight. Obviously, we had the fantastic 1-2. The whole entire thing of him landing that 1-2 and pointing and stuff like that in the 5th round, it almost made it seem like Nate won the fight because it was the more memorable moment. But at the end of the day, on the judges' scorecards, on that record, Nate lost. So, I don't see a fight like that ever happening again. He says he wants to fight Jake Paul. You guys can run that back. But I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Jake Paul and Mike Perry. I don't see Jake Paul ever fighting Mike Tyson now, so it's going to be Jake Paul and Mike Perry, so we'll see what happens with that. It's a very interesting world in boxing right now, especially with the social media, the celebrity stuff. It's all wild. It's crazy. Everybody wants to be a boxer. They know the money's there, but Nate made 500,000 and Jorge made 500,000, or Nate made 700,000, Jorge made 500,000. Meanwhile, Conor McGregor dropped 600,000 betting on Nate to win and gets back 1.6 mil. Dude ends up making more than both of them combined. That's crazy. That's just crazy. Crazy. What else has been going on in the boxing realm? Obviously, we've seen the stuff with Ryan Garcia. I ain't trying to dive too deep into it, but he made some ridiculous comments that no matter what you feel, it should never come out. No matter what you feel, it should never come out. Especially when you are as big as a star as Ryan Garcia, right? You were literally approaching being the face of boxing. You were so close to being the face of boxing, right? A lot of people would have ended up pushing the steroid, things under the rug. A lot of people would have kept it as accusations instead of actual things that happened. But this is something that nobody's going to push under the rug, right? I think it was the WBC already dropped him. You can't make comments like he did. And if you don't know the comments that he made, just go look him up. He made a couple comments on Twitter and then a couple comments on Instagram and then, on the live or whatever like that. The dude needs help. It's just that simple. He needs help. I don't think he truly believes in any of the shit that he spews out. I think that he just truly needs help. He's mentally lost. He should have never got with Oscar De La Hoya in the first place. I've been saying that from day one. Oscar De La Hoya as made a copycat version of himself back in the day. That's what I see with Ryan Garcia. Ryan is clearly coked out, clearly drunk, and he's claiming, he's trying to use the I'm being a troll as the thing he can hide behind. But the fact of the matter is the man needs help. He needs help because he's all over the place. At first I was like, oh, okay, he's doing the craziness to, he did the craziness to really get into Devin Haney's head, and it worked. It worked out well for him, but now everything else is backfiring, and he didn't drop the character, and it doesn't seem like it's a character anymore. He seems lost. Seems real lost. So, it sucks to see, man. But I had a friend who made a really good point, and he said no matter who the face of boxing is, or who's going to be the face of boxing, boxing moves on. They moved on with Sugar Ray Leonard. They moved on with Mike Tyson. When these guys make that mistake in their career and they have to sit out for X amount of years, boxing moves on. It becomes a new face. There becomes new people, right? before you know it, people might never care to see Ryan Garcia again. You know, one, you make bad comments, you get different, you know, you get a lot of different people that are going to see those comments and just be pissed off. Even if they agree with you, right? They're still going to be pissed off at the simple fact that you put it out there, knowing what your position is. You put that out there. Of course you're going to get in trouble. Of course you're going to get suspended, kicked out, whatever the case may be. There's no tolerance type of thing to that stuff nowadays, and you can't just make those comments. As simple as that. And Ryan Garcia, hopefully he gets the help he needs, but we won't see him boxing anytime soon. That's safe to say. You won't see him boxing anytime soon. But another boxer around the weight class I want to talk about is my boy SHAKUR STEVENSON. Look, it's hard. It's really hard to continue to try to say that man's the future. He's this and that, this and that. Dog, you got to start finishing people. Simple as that. There is no other route to go with this conversation than you need to start finishing people. You should not be as defensively skilled as you are, have the hand speed, everything that you have, and not be able to just unload and unleash. Right? He's hesitant. He's always waiting for the counter. He just moves around. A guy that's standing right in front of him, he's circling around him the whole time. Bro, stand there and unleash on this man who is nowhere near your level. Right? And that's just the way I look at it. It is frustrating to see a guy who is supposed to be someone who could end up being the future just end up fading away in these boring fights, man. Very boring fights, lackluster fights, no finishes. You know, you're supposed to be a top guy that they're mentioning your name with Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney, Brian Garcia, Vasily Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, all these guys. Your name is being mentioned with these people, right? You have to live up to that. You got to get some finishes. You got to get some highlights. You got to put something out there for people to be like, yo, you cannot argue with the fact that SHAKUR Stevenson is next. But when you look at the fight like he had last night, you sit back and you say, you got to do more. You have to do more. It's as simple as that. And I know everybody, you know, you're watching a guy that's sitting in the room smoking a joint talking about fights. I get it. I'm not the one in there. I'm not the one fighting your fight or anything like that, right? I totally understand. You're trying to get the win. It's not in your intention to make the fight boring. But at the same time, you need to start getting finishes. It's just that simple, right? No one is going to want to watch a guy who goes 40-0 with 37 decisions. You know what I'm saying? But everybody wants to tune in to watch the guy who goes 40-0 with 37 KOs. We've known Deontay Wilder is not the greatest boxer or skilled, technically sound boxer or anything like that. But when you're talking about 40 fights and 39 KOs, that is going to draw people to see this man fight. No matter what the case may be. Oh, he's not that good of a boxer. Yeah, but if he touches you, you're going to sleep. Right? With Floyd, it was the same thing. You go into a Floyd fight. Even if it ended up being a boring fight, you got a highlight. Floyd did something in that fight that made you say, damn, that's why he is what he is. Right? Whether it was a defensive move, whether it was a beautiful counter, whether it was him taunting, just playing the game, whatever the case may be. Right? Even his most boring fights aren't the way SHAKUR's have been in the last few fights. So the man's got to either get some finishes or start doing some memorable stuff in these fights so that people will continue to rise with his name. He says nobody wants to fight him, but nobody's going to want to fight you after that. Because who's going to sit back and say, I want to see that. I want to see SHAKUR Stevenson fight when he's just going to, you know, make it a boring fight. Now maybe it is the opponent. Maybe he complains about the opponent being the problem. Maybe it is the case. But we don't know that for sure. I guess we'll just have to wait and see until he fights somebody that is top tier caliber. I gotta be honest though, I changed my tone on the whole thinking SHAKUR would beat Gervonta Davis, outbox Gervonta Davis. I see that fight going very similar to how Tank versus Frank just went. I don't see SHAKUR being able to get past him. Yes, his boxing skill is phenomenal. His defense is good. We know what Gervonta Davis is capable of, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. You also had Carmel fight last night. Was it Carmel Moulton? Is that how you say his name? Yeah. Well, either way, Carmel fought last night against a guy that's twice his age. And he got the finish real quick in the second round. And this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about, right? I don't know the guy he was going up against. I don't think many people knew the guy he was going up against, right? But he went in there and made it quick and easy. That's all you have to do when you fight guys like that, is go in there, make it quick and easy, get the finish, get out, boom, enjoy your payday. That's it. That's it. And that's exactly what Carmel did. And that is what SHAKUR needs to start doing. If you got a guy that is not on your caliber, not on your level, get in, get the finish, get out. I mean, yeah, so that's pretty much it for this boxing episode. Yesterday, you had a strange day of boxing. You had Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. You had SHAKUR Stevenson fighting. You had Ryan Garcia's younger brother was on the Nate Diaz card going up against one of the Vargases. And then you had Danny Jacobs fighting possibly his last fight against Shane Mosley Jr. So it was an interesting night of fights. And then you had, during the daytime, Darren Till going up against, I don't even know who the guy was. I honestly never heard of this guy before. Never seen this guy before. But Darren Till hits him with, bro, I mean, the softest back of the head shot I've ever seen. Right? The softest back of the head shot I've ever seen. And this man oversold it. Dolph Ziggler WWE style. Oversold that shit.
Just in the almost into your house and then a knee.
I'm talking about The Rock getting stone cold stunned over, and him getting tapped in the back of the head led to a full-on post-fight brawl. I love this sport. It's so stupid and fun at the same time. I fucking love this sport. But that is it for this boxing episode. If you enjoyed, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell notification button so you know when the next episode is out. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Your boy Bando's out. Peace.